Good evening. Welcome to the May 18th Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, Teresa, if you would call the roll.
Councilman Whalen?
Here.
Councilwoman Standard?
Here.
Councilman Romano?
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowwood?
Here.
Supervisor Barrett?
Here. Entertain a motion to approve town board meeting minutes of May 4th and 11th.
So moved.
Second. Councilman Whalen?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowwood?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. Okay, communications and announcements. I just had a couple of quick announcements. The workforce reduction mandates by New York State have been extended through May 28th. We continue to monitor our levels across all departments. As you know, we have made some changes in the past weeks, most notably the transfer station. In the beginning of this whole crisis, I had a press conference up in Saratoga County, and very early on, and I did express my concern as far as one-size-fits-all mandates that were coming down. And you know, when you have an operation like the transfer station, you have a set amount of customers, and with people home, there's a good chance they're going to use it more than normal. And if you reduce the hours because you have to enact workforce reductions, it's a very large concern because you're going to have the same number of customers using the facility in a condensed amount of time. So we did expand the transfer station hours, full days on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We continued with half days on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Coming up this Friday, we will be open a full day on that Friday as well. So after we get out of this week, or I should say during this week, the hours will be full day Tuesday, half day Wednesday, half day Thursday, full day Friday and Saturday. So that will hopefully further spread the number of users of the facility. Now, about half of our permit holders are in the senior citizen category. So, you know, I would think there would be more flexibility in that group, but on a percentage basis, certainly not true of everybody. And the fact that out of the other half of the customer base, many people are home, or at least home more than normal, that they too could be a little more flexible in when they can go to the transfer station. So we're trying to further spread the number of users at any one time by expanding the hours, and it's done for the safety of the employees as well as the customers. Obviously, the transfer station continues to be incredibly important. The yard waste, recycling, garbage removal, all incredibly important to many people. And we want to make sure that we're offering the same great service that people are accustomed to throughout the year. So with that said, we will be expanding those hours. We do have additional personnel conducting landscaping duties. The golf course personnel are all back on the landscaping or grounds side of the equation. As far as the people that work seasonally in the starters booth, they have not returned, and we're not rushing them back by any stretch. We want them to be safe and completely at ease with regard to returning to work, because they are in the more vulnerable category, and we can make do with other people working. I want to thank Lori Hughes, who has been working at least a couple of days a week at the golf course. I want to thank her very much. And we've also used some couple of gentlemen that would normally work seasonally in the Buildings and Grounds Department because of the workforce level mandates and the reductions. They haven't been working yet. Normally, they'd already be here on a regular basis during the summer months. But this is another opportunity for them to pick up some hours. One gentleman lives right in the neighborhood of the golf course. One lives right outside the common here, so they're both very close. So that's where we are with the workforce and the transfer station. The only other change this week was the tennis courts are open. That was something that the governor allowed to happen. I guess that's it. There's, as far as the basketball courts and generally other contact sports, those remain prohibited activity in New York State. We're hopeful as our region and other regions start to open, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Hopefully the phases progress fairly quickly and some of those restrictions will be lifted. It is certainly our hope, but there is no guarantee at this point. Another quick update, summer camps, there's been no decision made regarding summer camps yet. We appreciate everybody's patience. Again, trying to wait a little bit to hopefully gain additional visibility regarding what conditions might be when the calendar turns to late June, early July. We basically have two options. We can just cancel the camps for the year, and we certainly wouldn't be alone in that regard. Many other municipalities have already canceled their summer camps for the year. So we wouldn't be alone, and I don't think wrong in doing that. Or we can take a step back, continue to assess options that would be available, the various new standard operating procedures that we can implement based on the situation that we find ourselves in today, and try to offer a good experience for as many youngsters as possible. Our families need support. As the economy opens, people will be returning to work, and they're very eager to return to work. So the consequence of that and the concern regarding people going back to work is childcare. Now, with our full day camp, obviously, if you have a child, your child can be there from 7:30 to 6, and they have a great day. All kinds of activities throughout the day, and a weekly trip somewhere. You have lunch a couple of times a week. I mean, it's a great program, and people can work and they know that their kid is having fun and in a safe environment. Well, if we don't offer the camps, people will not have that option. So we won't be able to, as I see it, we will not be able to offer the same program as we have been now for 15 plus years. It will look different. It will be scaled back. The daily activities will need to change compared to what we've done in the past. There probably, well, very likely there wouldn't be the weekly field trips that we like to offer each year. So it will need to be something that is very different than what we're accustomed to offering, but, and it'll be for less kids than normal. But it would be something that families could depend on and to help them as they return to work. And I think that's an important thing that we should keep in mind. So, is time on our side? Not really, but the camps don't normally start to the end of June. So even if we looked at a late June, early July time frame for initiating the camp, we still have a significant, several weeks before that start date occurs. Hopefully at that time, things will look much different than they do now. We'll be in a much better place as far as the virus is concerned, but there's no guarantee. So those are basically our two options, and we can further discuss, and I'd appreciate your input and assistance as this decision process continues. But I think we should, in the near term, and when I say near term, say about a week, say by next Monday, we at least give an indication that, no, we're going to cancel the camps completely for the summer, or we are maintaining specific options that are available to the town in offering camps. We're reviewing the standard operating procedures that we will need to implement if we offer camps, and we are targeting whatever date that seems right and doable at that time, whether it's late June, early July timeframe. And as we get closer to that date, we will assess the situation, and then if we do move forward, accept applications. I don't think we should accept any applications right now. I think we should wait until it's definitely going to happen, that we will be offering camps definitively. So those are our two options. That is a kind of just looking at the calendar and considering how the process might play out. Those are just some ideas for us to consider. So I appreciate your thoughts over the next week, and we'll go from there. Are there any other communications announcements? Okay. I do want to continue to thank all of the volunteers and town staff doing a great job serving our seniors every day. Before we came down, I just saw 2 more grocery shopping tasks for 2 seniors in our town being undertaken. The list went out, and the volunteers will be conducting that shopping probably tomorrow, I would imagine. So I do want to continue to thank everybody that's pitched in to continue the grocery shopping for our seniors, running errands. This Wednesday, now we've had 2 food drives for Captain, non-perishable food items. The response has been overwhelming. The outpouring of generosity has been spectacular. So we're going to have a 3rd one this Wednesday from 9 to 3 at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center on the Common. You'll just drive up, drop your donation in the back of a pickup truck, and we'll wave at you with thank you from a distance, and then you'll drive off. So we, the first 2 food drives, about 6,000 pounds apiece. We want to exceed that on Wednesday. So anybody that can donate some non-perishable food items, we'd be greatly appreciated on Wednesday, 9 to 3 at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center. We'll also be doing another mass public distribution in the near future. We don't have a date set for that yet. We're still waiting to see if we have some more masks that'll be coming in soon, we hope. And we'll be putting that information out on the website, social media, as well as by press release. All right. So if there's no other communications oh, did you want to mention Mother's Day, Ravenswood? Yeah, we had a couple hundred dinners just that day.
Exactly. We had 200 meals that were donated from Ravenswood on Mother's Day and delivered by our extensive list of volunteers. It was a finely run operation, and really it's quite amazing to think that 200 meals that day got out in about 15 minutes and delivered successfully. So again, thank you to Ravenswood for all those donations. They have donated up to date about 585 meals, I think it's been, a significant amount of meals that they've donated since the end of March. And our volunteers have been happily available to help out. So thank you to Ravenswood, and thank you to our volunteers for taking care of our most vulnerable at the most scariest time of this entire crisis. Mother's Day was quite a feat.
Yeah.
We actually had some families from around Clifton Park who made some Mother's Day greeting cards to families. Those were delivered along with the meals and gratefully accepted and appreciated. So.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I want to thank Scott Schreifel, Stephanie Van Auken, everybody at the Ravenswood for the last several weeks. But yeah, 200 dinners on Mother's Day alone. And it took a huge volunteer effort as well as a large effort from staff to coordinate that. So making a difference for many seniors in our community. And several hundred dinners have been delivered over the last few weeks, and just an incredible sign of generosity from the Ravenswood. So more to come on that program, but I want to make sure we made that point. Lastly, as far as communications, I do want to congratulate Gene Harold on his 90th birthday. We did a drive-by his house yesterday on Grooms Road. Gene worked at the town for 50 years. The town highway garage was named after Gene, the main garage that faces Clifton Park Center Road, years ago. And Gene is a veteran. He's lived in town his entire life, grew up on a farm on Tanner Road, lived on Grooms Road for many years. Built a house there as a young man. And so it was nice. It was great to see so many people that showed up. Presented him with a proclamation from a distance as well, and it was great to see. So he had a lot of family members out there on the front lawn with him. To him, it was a surprise. He had no idea, but the fire department, Bishop Ferry Fire Department, made it happen. And everybody that joined in, many friends and family of his, of all ages, were part of the parade. So again, happy birthday, Gene, and we wish you many more. All right, so we have some resolutions, only 4 this evening, last meeting of the month. If you could read through those, Teresa, I appreciate it. Oh, I want to thank you, Teresa, too. On many of the days and the Ravenswood dinners, we were delivering 3 times a week. And you mentioned the 200 on just on Mother's Day. And Teresa made these wonderful treats for all the volunteers. So thank you very much. I know those were appreciated.
My pleasure. It's great to have all the volunteers.
Yeah.
Wonderful. They were very appreciative. Thank you. Okay.
A resolution declaring May 17th through the 23rd, 2020 as EMS Week and recognizing the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Corps for their dedication to the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of Clifton Park. Whereas in 1974, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate emergency service, medical services, EMS practitioners, and the important work they do in our nation's communities. And whereas May 17th through the 23rd, 2020 has been designated as the 46th annual National EMS Week, and whereas the theme of this year's National EMS Week is Ready Today, Preparing for Tomorrow. And whereas Ready Today, Preparing for Tomorrow reflects what individual EMS professionals and organizations do every day as they respond to calls for help at any time and in any place. And whereas EMS professionals and organizations are living the creed every day in 2020 as they are on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis, planning, adapting, and responding to take care of the residents of Clifton Park and the greater community. And whereas EMS professionals and organizations continue to rally to support those affected by the COVID-19 crisis, while still responding to the everyday emergencies that occur in our community. And whereas the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Corps serves more than 80 square miles, responding to almost 7,000 calls a year. And whereas the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Corps is now comprised of nearly 90 members made up of paramedics, EMTs, volunteers, and administrative staff, operating 9 ambulances and 2 rapid response vehicles 24 hours a day, every day of the year. And whereas as part of its vision, excellence in service to all, the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Corps maintains the highest standards of medical care, providing all levels of EMS care in any type of situation, treating patients both on-site and while en route to area hospitals. And whereas National EMS Week brings together local communities and medical personnel to honor the dedication of those who provide the day-to-day life-saving services of medicine's frontline. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clifton Park Town Board that hereby declares May 17th through the 23rd, 2020 to be dedicated to the EMS Week in the town of Clifton Park, and be it further resolved that the Clifton Park Town Board hereby recognizes the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Corps for their contributions in keeping Clifton Park a safe and healthy community. A resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute necessary documents and agreements to permit construction of a portion of the Champlain Hudson Power Express project proposed by Transmission Developers Incorporated. Whereas Champlain Hudson Power Express Incorporated, including its successors and/or assigns CHPEI, is developing the Champlain Hudson Power Express project. The project, an approximately 1,000 megawatts underground and underwater high voltage direct current electric transmission facility extending from the United States border with Canada to Queens, New York. And whereas the New York State Public Service Commission, the PSC, has ruled the project will supply clean, renewable hydroelectricity to New York State and has issued the certificate of environmental compatibility and public need authorizing the construction and operation of the project, including any amendments thereto the certificate. And whereas CHPEI has discussed the project extensively with the town of Clifton Park, the municipality, as a portion of the project will be located within the municipality and will occupy certain privately and/or publicly owned land. And whereas the project will provide significant economic and environmental benefits to the New York State and the municipality in the form of lower electric rates, a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and increased jobs, including local jobs during the project's construction. Whereas the project will provide significant tax or payment in lieu of tax revenue to the town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, and School District of Shenandoah Central Schools during the course of its expected 40 to 60-year operating life. And whereas prior to construction within the municipality, CHPEI will require a road crossing agreement with the municipality that will include, at a minimum, construction responsibilities and plans, restoration and repair of damage, dispute resolution, bonding, insurance, and indemnification provisions. And whereas once the project commences operation, it is not expected to require any services from the municipality. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board is fully familiar with and supportive of the project, including the use and occupancy of privately and/or publicly owned land in the municipality. that the town board hereby grants its consent to CHPEI in accordance with section 11(3) of the New York State Transportation Corporation's law to lay down, construct, and maintain its wires, conductors, conduits, and other fixtures in and under the streets, avenues, public parks, and all other publicly owned places in the municipality in accordance with the provisions of the certificate. And 3, that the town board commits the municipality to the taking of such further actions if and when reasonably requested by CHPEI and consistent with applicable law as may facilitate the successful achievement of the project, including without limitation executing a crossing agreement substantially in the form annexed thereto. The town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to take all appropriate measures to implement the intent of this resolution, and the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy hereto to CHPEI at the Peter Schuyler Building, Albany, New York, that the town board approves the inclusion of the copy of this resolution as a part of any filing made by CHPEI with any governmental bodies when and as required or requested by the same, and the use of this resolution as public statements made by CHPEI regarding host community support for the project, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. A resolution granting a drainage easement through town-owned land to the residents at 21 Lincoln Avenue in Presidential Estates for purposes of managing stormwater runoff. Whereas David Sherman, resident of 21 Lincoln Avenue, has requested permission to install stormwater drainage in his backyard to be connected to the recharge basin B on the lands of the town of Clifton Park located east of his property at 25 Lincoln Avenue, and whereas stormwater technician Scott Reese has verified that there are flooding issues on this property and advises the granting of the drainage easement for efficient stormwater management. And whereas the town board supports environmentally effective stormwater management solutions in the direction of the stormwater into publicly maintained infrastructure where available. Now therefore be it resolved, the supervisor is authorized to convey the attached drainage easement allowing access to the town-owned facilities. A resolution seeking to purchase 78,500 masks in order to allow greater movement throughout the community as we prepare to reopen the economy in the capital region. Whereas on March 7, 2020, Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state disaster emergency due to the outbreak of community contact transmission of the novel coronavirus known as COVID-19, and whereas on March 17, 2020, Supervisor Barrett declared a state of emergency in Clifton Park, which has subsequently extended until June 7, 2020, and whereas the town has dispensed thousands of masks from various sources, and whereas Executive Order number 202 allows for the procurement of personal protective equipment, PPE, on an emergency basis in order to facilitate the safe and secure reopening of the economy in the capital region in upstate New York. And whereas Supervisor Barrett recommends the purchase of an additional 78,500 masks for 41 cents each for a total of $32,185 from HT Materials Corporation, Rensselaer, New York, to be delivered May 21st, 2020. And whereas the masks will be used for the protection of town employees, volunteers working to assist fellow residents, and for public distribution. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board accepts the quote of HT Materials Corporation, 5 University Place, Rensselaer, New York, for the purchase of 78,500 face masks in an amount not to exceed $32,185 to be paid with a transfer of funds from undesignated fund balance to health services, other contractual.
Very good. Any questions on the resolutions? Teresa, if you could read the headings, please.
Resolution number 103 of 2020, a resolution declaring May 17th through the 23rd, 2020 as EMS Week, and recognizing the Clifton Park and Half Moon Emergency Course for the dedication to the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of Clifton Park.
So moved.
I'll move that we approve the resolution with a second by the entire board with their approval. I do want to thank all of our first responders, EMS, fire, police, for everything that they're doing to keep us safe during these very difficult times. We had a press conference in conjunction with Clifton Park Half Moon EMS back when the pandemic began, and it was a way to offer more information to residents that I know were concerned back then as to how our EMS personnel would protect themselves, how their operating procedures may change in regard to working with patients. So there were many layers that people were very concerned about, and it made me feel better after I felt very confident about what they were prepared to do and how they do it each day. But I actually walked out of there feeling more confident myself, because when you consider the training that they complete on a regular basis, the professional equipment that they have at their disposal on a daily basis, you see very directly that not only are they prepared personally, but they have everything they need to do the job and do it safely. So I was very glad that we did that. I think it helped get more information out. But they've been fantastic, continue to be, and certainly have this town board's support and admiration. All right, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen? Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 104 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute necessary documents and agreements to permit construction of a portion of the Champlain Hudson Power Express project proposed by Transmission Developers Incorporated.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Wallowit. We've got John Scavo over here. Wow, very colorful mask.
Thank you, sir.
We set up a green room right outside here, so the department heads, as opposed to being on the phone, will be here in person to talk about the issue at hand that they're responsible for and to answer questions. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CHPEI?
Yes, this is a approximately $3 billion public infrastructure project. It's actually proposed by a private development corporation whose profits will be through the transmission of the electrical source from Canada to New York City. And the line will run approximately 333 miles from Canada down to Astoria, Queens. And will not result in expansion of the existing hydro facility. The facility is already there producing energy. What it will do is provide a dedicated source in which New York can ensure that its electric suppliers can purchase green energy sources to supply the state to meet its green energy goals. Clifton Park's involvement, there's multiple state, federal, and agencies in the United States and then agencies in Canada that are overseeing the overall approval of the project. Our role is the fact that the transmission line, which is generally following the Clifton Park railroads, has two crossings within our public right-of-ways that we control. And that's at Old Rustic Bridge Road and then at Blue Barns Road, where it would be an open cut through a street opening permit, which we have our local process. So this is just a resolution noting that when the project is ready for construction within Clifton Park, they will apply for the necessary permits. They'll put up the necessary bonding requirements and abide by all our local standards and regulations to restore the intersections that they're crossing with an open cut back to their pre-cut conditions.
What about and certainly now this is the original green energy,
Correct.
right?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, this is I mean, when you talk about green energy that actually pays for itself, and from a market standpoint, is successful not only financially, but, wow, generating substantial energy, water is the best tool.
Absolutely, and the Northeast traditionally has a very low carbon footprint as a result of the majority of our power coming from hydro sources. So we have not been a large CO2 generator as a whole.
Well, and it accounts for the low energy prices that you see up in the Lake Placid area and other areas, where they're close to hydro, and they have very low electricity rates historically. Oh, I thought your mask started.
The phone had a mind of its own.
He's got a talking mask. It just kind of takes off once in a while. Has a mind of its own. Is he coming through all right with the? Okay. All right, back on point. So, yeah, just some facts. $3 billion New York infrastructure project. How about that? Related to energy,
Absolutely.
clean energy that is marketable, that pays for itself. So the project itself is phenomenal. A high voltage line will be buried to minimize community environmental impact while maximizing natural disaster resiliency. Now they have all the permits, right?
Correct. They were working through the PSC at the state level to finalize. Construction was anticipated for 2021. Again, that may or may not be a moving target based on conditions, but for all intents and purposes, they're putting the pieces in place for construction to start next year.
Now, if we move forward with this the support, and I find it very difficult for the town of Clifton Park to stand in the way of such a large project that seemingly amazingly, all of the necessary agencies have approved. I mean, it's difficult to get an energy project through PSC and all the state agencies, particularly if it's a pipeline. Sure. This is not that, but still a very expensive and monumental feat to get to gather the approvals. But that being said, what about on the private property side of the equation? How is that going?
Sure, they're handling that outside of the municipalities, but for the most part, they're following the CP rail line that already has the necessary easements for utilities and transportation. So
if there were any private property owners, then they would be treated as we are, basically.
Correct.
We can choose to support or not, based on the fact that there will be a monetary award.
correct.
Or they can choose to not approve a crossing on their property in exchange for a monetary award. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, the project value in the town, 16.5 million, and obviously, as John mentions, they're following the tracks because better to go to one entity for a major portion of the approvals as opposed to, a myriad of entities. So is there anything else that you
Just
tell
as
us here that we should keep in
Sure,
mind?
just 2 points. Originally, when the line was proposed to be constructed, they were going to go completely underwater from the Champlain Canal all the way down the Hudson River to New York City. Because of unresolved issues with PCDs in the Hudson, whether they'll need to be dredged in the future or not, it forced the project to come out of the water and above ground just south, north of Fort Edward. So that's why they had to revamp Saratoga County to come and follow the rail line before they can go back into the river and follow the Hudson the rest of the way down. In addition to that, this is privately owned, the utility, so it is subject to our tax rolls. So there is a benefit to the county and school district. It is anticipated that for the project, based on the substantial $3 billion investment, they will seek a pilot agreement for the communities in which they're in. And that provides predictability for the communities going forward, knowing what the payment's going to be.
Right. Okay, great. Any questions for John? Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a very good project and something that you'd be in favor of. Anything else you want to add?
That's it, sir.
Okay. Now, Scott's going to talk about the next one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can leave yourself from the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, well done. And if there's no further comment, we'll go call the question. Please.
Councilman Whalen? Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 105 of 2020, a resolution granting a drainage easement through town-owned land to the residents at 21 Lincoln Avenue in Presidential Estates for the purpose of managing stormwater runoff.
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. How are you doing, Scott?
Very well. Yourself?
Yeah, so speak up nice and loud with that mask on your face there.
I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I did ask the department heads to come in one at a time, as opposed to completely doing it over the phone and to wear masks if they could. So.
All right.
Thank you for following instructions.
No problem.
But go ahead, let us know what the situation is here.
As dealing with a stormwater management technician, I deal with a lot of different residents in the town that usually have drainage problems and ways, and the town tries to find ways that we can assist them, to with any kind of their water in their basement or water pooling on their backyard. And been also working with the town highway superintendent where we can connect to catch basins and such along with the permits. In this case, a young family at 21 Lincoln Ave had a drainage issue where it just pooled in their backyard and was not able to use their backyard as well during the early springtime. So I met with the owner and we derived a plan where he would install the drainage, catch basins, these little drain inlets, and pump it to an existing depression in the ground that takes the storm water that would normally take the storm water from the subdivision. So it wasn't adding anything extra. So this resident, moved forward with that, hired himself a surveyor, laid out the thing of the location of where things would be and the easement that he needs for that. So with that, that's fine as a town, we would, say, you can take your drainage, improve your backyard and drain to a place that it would be acceptable to. And, so with good workmanship between the residents and us, this is the plans that we're presenting, that he can move forward with this, but he would be the owner of the lines and make sure that they're, maintained and operating for his own private use.
Very good, and you have a separate schematic at your desk that Scott has provided showing exactly where this would be located. Are there any reasons why we wouldn't approve something like this, Scott? I mean, anything that sticks out to you that would be a problem potentially?
No, typically when we work with residents and that they want to improve their own private property, it's if there's a catch basin in front of them that they can connect to directly, and if they're not crossing anybody else's property, and if it's not an expense to the town of installing new piping or whatever, but this resident is taking the cost of putting it in, installing it, and locating it. So the only thing that we're letting them know is like if we need to access that location and have to dig it up for one of our storm pipes, it's his responsibility to do the replacement.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly should take the initiative and do on a regular basis to help residents with these situations where we can. We cannot do work on private property. We do get those requests from time to time. 9.9 times out of 10, people understand that. Yeah, there's just certain things we cannot do on private property, and this would be considered one of those. However, we can certainly offer assistance in the form of approvals and Scott's expertise in this area. Any questions for Scott? Or comments? Teresa?
Councilman Whalen? Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you, Scott, appreciate it.
Resolution number 106 of 2020, a resolution seeking to purchase 78,500 masks in order to allow greater movement throughout the community as we prepare to reopen the economy in the capital region.
So moved. Second?
Moved by Ms. Wallwood, second by Mrs. Standard. So the mask situation, certainly very interesting, isn't it? It's been interesting on many levels, but certainly watching different experts, in the country say that, well, masks may make a difference. Others say may not make a difference. And we're not about to get into that discussion and argument. Some experts say they're a waste of time. Others say if you don't have one, then you're putting yourself at increased risk. Not only you, but the people around you. Plus, New York State is mandated that masks be worn. Businesses that you walk into, many of them have a sign now that say you need a mask to enter the store. So it's not our position to get into a discussion about whether masks are proven to wear or not. Bottom line is you're expected or required to wear one in public, particularly when you're in an area where social distancing cannot be ensured 100% of the time that you're in that public space. Now, the demand for masks has continued to grow. We've certainly seen that firsthand. And I think as time goes on here, the demand will continue to grow. Now, I would imagine at some point supply will catch up with demand, but certainly hasn't happened yet. I mean, masks are extremely difficult to procure. We here in the town have been able to, right from the very beginning, have a mask supply on hand. That was initially, my wife and I donated our own money to purchase the mask. Unorthodox purchasing process, and we just felt it was something that we wanted to do. So we donated masks to the sheriff's department, both EMS organizations in town, the town of Clifton Park, N95 and surgical masks. And so we've kept a supply here, and our employees have had access to them upon request. And we've also had them for people that we come in contact with on a regular basis, most notably the people that are transported on the senior vans each day. We weeks ago insisted that anybody riding the vans wear a mask. They didn't have one, we gave them one. Now we've also been able to conduct 2 public mask distributions. We've been distributing masks to people upon request. We've delivered thousands of masks to our senior housing complexes throughout town. So we've been able to secure small quantities of masks over time, and we've had some very nice donations. We had one gentleman, Ben Du, he donated 2,000 masks, surgical masks, a few weeks ago. Ram Lalakudo and his group, Albany and Toluca, they have been raising money. They donated masks to the town of Clifton Park last week, several hundred KN95 masks. So that has helped as well. And Saratoga County Emergency Services, Carl Zeilman, done a great job getting some cloth masks out to the municipality. So we've just been, from any source we can get them. We've purchased some on a very small level. I know many people, not only here but across the country, they put in large orders of masks and they're told it'll be a few weeks. A few weeks turns into a month and a half or 2 months, or maybe they don't show up at all. A lot of the shipments coming out of China have become tighter. It's more difficult to get product out of China. So with that, we were able to find a source that was able to deliver a large quantity of masks at a incredible price, 41 cents a piece. These are surgical masks, the standard. They have the ridge, the 3 ridges, ears, 3 ridges, the usual. Good quality, but again, 41 cents, incredible price. We haven't been able to find them at that price, nor have we been able to locate a source that can get us a large quantity. We want to not only assist residents, but assist businesses. As we enter phase 1 reopening, businesses will need masks. If they don't have them, they probably won't be able to open based on New York State mandates and requirements. So we want to be in a position to help everybody here in the town of Clifton Park. So I believe this is a prudent purchase. It's a great opportunity to be in a very enviable position regarding what has become a somewhat rare resource that everybody seems to want. And like I said, that demand will continue through the summer. Then the fall, winter season, flu season returns. I think demand will again pick up. So I think it's important we have peace of mind that we have this equipment for our town employees, people that we come in contact with every day, our businesses and residents. So I'm very pleased that we were able to secure this shipment. Not here yet. We don't have them on site, so I don't want to give you that. I don't want to give you the impression they're here, but I feel very confident that this supplier will come through for us. And more to come. We'll have more information around masks and what the town is planning for the near future to help everybody in town. So with that, we have this. Now, I would expect this is a reimbursable expense based on the calls that we've had with FEMA. And that we've gone through that process in the past with FEMA. It does take some time, but judging from past situations, we were able to get valid expenses reimbursed. So this will be an item that we will submit for reimbursement as well. Are there any questions? I know some of you have been there when we did the public mass distributions, and I think you saw quite vividly the demand. And people are calling every day, so we want to have another public distribution soon. All righty, any questions, comments? Teresa?
Councilman Whalen? Councilwoman Sandart?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malawit?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. Any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay. Crescent Waste, private sewer system. We've been talking about that this month. It made known to us that the owner of the system is intending to abandon the system to the town of Clifton Park by June 30th. So we passed a resolution recently on the map plan and report, and that continues to move forward. The Saratoga County has stated recently a Public Works Committee meeting, and I am a member of the Public Works Committee, that 6 projects are slated for delay, 6 public works projects. 3 of them are from the town of Clifton Park. One of them is the Ashtown Bridge project, which that won't happen this year no matter what at this point. The other 2 are $179,000 for reconstruction, repaving of Main Street in Jonesville, and $30,000 for the signal preparation for the intersection at Grooms Road and Bishop Ferry Road. So it's not paying for the actual traffic light itself, but paying for the process to get to the point where the approvals are in place and we can move forward with the purchase and installation of a traffic light at Bishop Ferry and Grooms. I know that both of these projects have a tremendous amount of public interest. People have been very concerned that these 2 projects will not move forward. I did offer at the meeting to have the town loan the money to the county to ensure that at least the 2 projects, the Bishop Ferry Grooms signal preparation and the Main Street repaving and reconstruction, move forward. I can't say that offer was met with open arms, although they said they would consider it. We'll see how long that consideration lasts or how meaningful it truly is. But there's no reason why these 2 projects need to be delayed into next year or beyond when the town of Clifton Park is willing to loan the county the money. It's not as if these projects will go away. They need to be done in the near term. So they might save that money this year, but then it's staring them in the face next year. And then we have a worse situation on Main Street. And another year goes by with no traffic light at Grooms and Bishop Ferry intersection. So it's only, they're only kicking the can down the road. So why not accept the loan from the town of Clifton Park, get the 2 projects done, and fix these 2 issues that are county responsibilities in the town of Clifton Park. So that's where we are. I'll update you as I hear anything further, but we'll see what happens. There are, and there will be an additional, there will be a group of people that I know are very interested in having their say in the process, and also will have their own way of gaining more attention for these 2 projects, and trying to capture the county's ear, county leadership, in moving the ball forward. So these projects are completed in 2020, so more to come. All right,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
moved by Ms. Wallowitz, second by Mrs. Standard.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you very much.